Hi everyone, for BIO320 video presentations, we will be presenting about corals.
Let me introduce our team members. First is Nur Fatinuha binti Muhammad Nur Nizam, Batrisha binti Abdul Aziz, Nur Afrina Hazira binti Nur Saleh, and Nurul Shahira Najib binti Abdul Rakib.
Here is our content. Taxonomic descriptions, habitats, characteristic, life cycles, and lastly, importance to ecosystem and in economy. Introductions. Corals are invertebrate animals from the Nadiada group, which also include jellyfish and sea animals. They share key features like a simple stomach and a single mouth opening and stinging tentacles. Each coral is made up of individual polyps that live together in large colonies, formed through a process called budding, where the original polyps creates identical copies of itself. Taxonomy descriptions. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy is the scientific study of naming, identification, and classifying of organisms. This is a hierarchy of classifications of coral, consists of 7 taxa: Kingdom Animalia, which the broadest one, Phylum Nidaria, Class Anthozoa, Order Sclerotinia, Family Acropodidae, Genus Acropora, and Species Acropora cervicornis, which the narrowest. Moving on to the habitats. Corals live in shallow, warm, and clear saltwater environments, mostly in tropical and subtropical oceans. They are found in areas with sunlight because they rely on a partnership with tiny algae for foods. Coral attach to hard surface like rocks and build reef over time, forming habitats for many marine species.
Let's move to the characteristic of coral. First is general characteristic. Their habitat was found in warm, shallow water, some in deep or cool regions. Next, they are sessile, which they anchored to the substrate and symbiotic with zooxanthellae. For the reproduction, they are both sexual and asexual. In asexual, they through budding and fragmentation to allow colony expansion, while sexual, gametes are released into the water for external fertilization. In morphology, they have a cylindrical body shape known as polyp, with a mouth surrounded by tentacles. Hard corals secrete calcium carbonate to form rigid exoskeleton that build coral reef, while soft corals have flexible, glittering bodies without hard skeleton. For the third one, in mode of nutrition, coral feed in 2 primary ways. First is heterotrophic feeding. They use their tentacles to capture plankton and organic particles from the water. Secondly is autotrophic. Coral rely on zooxanthellae algae for photosynthesis. They are mixed feeding strategy where the corals rely on both heterotrophic feeding and energy produced by zooxanthellae. Lastly, the unique characteristic is where the hard coral form biodiverse coral reef. Coral also highly sensitive to environmental change. It can lead to coral bleaching. Most of coral act as indicator of ocean health.
This is the life cycle of corals. Through the release of gametes into the sea, corals engage in sexual reproduction. Usually, this process takes place during coordinated spawning events. The majority of corals release their gametes all at once, frequently in response to environmental cues such as the length of the day, water temperature, and the lunar cycle. The water column is where the fertilization takes place, after both male and female corals discharge their eggs and sperm. Certain corals release both sperm and eggs, making them hermaphrodites. After fertilization, those released gametes come together in the water column to form a free-swimming planula larva. Ocean currents carry the planula for days or weeks as it floats in the water column. When conditions are favorable, the planula settles on a hard surface. Once settled, the planula changes into a polyp and starts reproducing asexually to create a coral colony. The planula changes into a single polyp, which begins to form a protective skeleton by secreting calcium carbonate. The polyp creates genetically identical polyps through asexual reproduction known as budding. These polyps stay joined together to create a colony. The colony grows over time as the polyps keep dividing and laying down calcium carbonate, which gives the reef its structure.
Okay, now I would like to explain about the importance of coral reef for the ecosystem. First, water filtration. Okay, They help maintain water quality by filtering pollutants and providing a clean environment for marine life. Next, coastal protection. Okay, reef act as natural barriers, reducing the impact of wave, storm, and erosion on coastal community. Okay, third, for nursery grounds, they serve as critical breeding and nursery grounds for many marine species, contributing to the health of global fisheries. And lastly, for carbon sequestration, coral reef contribute to the carbon cycle, helping regulate atmospheric carbon dioxide level through calcium carbonate deposition. Then we move to the why coral reef important for economy. First, fisheries and food security. Coral reefs support commercial and subsistence fisheries, providing food and livelihood to millions of people globally. And second, for tourism and recreation. Reefs attract millions of tourists for activities like snorkeling, diving, and recreational fishing. And third, coastal protection. By reducing wave energy, reef saving billions in coastal infrastructure, maintenance, and disaster recovery. Alright, third, we have medicinal resources. Coral reef are a source of bioactive compound for developing medicines, including treatments for cancer and cardiovascular disease. And lastly, economic multiplier effect. Healthy reef support industry like boat tours, equipment rental, and hospitality, also creating jobs and economic growth.